the Pleasure Craft Odessa calling port control. Over.
Odessa, this is port control.
They called him the boss, not because he commanded fear, but because he commanded trust. Sir Ernest Shackleton, a man who set out to conquer the coldest ends of the earth, and in doing so, revealed something far greater. Not the story of triumph over ice, but triumph over despair. Not a journey of conquest, but of compassion. And tonight, as you close your eyes, you'll drift with him through storms, silence, and survival until, gently, we arrive at rest.
Imagine this for a moment. A ship sails into endless white silence. No trees, no villages, no voices. Only ice stretching beyond every horizon. The year is 1914. The ship's name is Endurance. Its mission, to cross the frozen continent of Antarctica. At the helm is a man named Ernest Shackleton. Some call him fearless. Some call him reckless. History will call him unforgettable. But tonight, this isn't just history. This is a mystery. A true, chilling mystery of survival. A story so haunting, it feels almost impossible. Before we step onto the deck of Shackleton's ship, let me ask, how's the weather where you are tonight? Maybe you hear rain against your window. Maybe the air is heavy with summer heat. Or maybe the night feels crisp, almost too quiet. Wherever you are, make yourself comfortable. If it's cold, pull a blanket close around your shoulders. If it's warm, take a cool sip of water. If it's raining, listen to its rhythm. It will guide you deeper into this story. Now, let's begin. The Endurance set sail from South Georgia, a lonely whaling station far to the south of the world. The men wave goodbye to solid ground, not knowing when or if they will see it again. Can you picture it? A group of 28 men, some young, some seasoned sailors, some scientists eager to study the unknown, all of them drawn into Shackleton's vision of conquest, the first to cross the Antarctic continent from sea to sea. It sounds bold, it sounds glorious, but already there's something chilling in the air. The men laugh, they smoke their pipes, they joke about the cold. But under it all, there is unease. They know what lies ahead, a world that does not forgive mistakes. Wind rises softly, like breath on a window. The Antarctic is not a land of welcome. It is a land of silence, of secrets, of endless white stretching forever. And soon, that silence will swallow Shackleton and his men whole. By January 1915, the Endurance is locked in sea ice. Not just slowed, not just delayed, but trapped, held fast in a frozen grip as if the ocean itself had decided to capture them. Can you feel it? The creak of timber under pressure? The groan of a ship being squeezed by ice? The sense of dread creeping slowly into every corner of the mind? The men wake each day hoping the ice will break, but it doesn't. Instead, the pressure grows. The ship is now a prisoner, and the men aboard become prisoners too. Imagine being there, day after day. Nothing moves, no escape. The horizon is the same no matter where you turn, just white, endless white. Would you feel restless? Would you panic? Or would you sink into a strange calm, knowing resistance is useless? Shackleton chooses calm. He speaks to the men in steady tones. He organizes daily routines. He makes them laugh when despair creeps in, because he knows the truth. If their minds collapse, their bodies will follow. So each morning, the men rise, they exercise, they clean, they play football on the ice, laughing in the endless daylight. They even race dogs across the frozen surface. Anything to keep spirits alive. Soft, distant shouts, muffled laughter carried by the wind. But beneath the laughter, the truth waits. They are stranded, and the ice is not loosening its grip. By winter, the Antarctic darkness falls. The sun disappears for months, and the men live in near constant night. Only lanterns and small fires push back the blackness. The sound of the wind is constant, sometimes gentle, sometimes like a scream across the plain. Wind howling stronger now. Have you ever sat in deep darkness with no end in sight? Your mind begins to wander. It invents sounds, it invents shapes, it turns shadows into whispers. The men begin to feel that, the haunting presence of something greater than themselves. The ice seems alive, groaning, shifting, cracking with deep booming echoes, as if the earth itself were speaking. Then, in October 1915, disaster strikes. The ice finally wins. The Endurance is crushed. Her wooden ribs splinter. Her masts collapse. She sinks slowly, swallowed by the frozen sea. The men stand in silence. Their home is gone. Their last tie to the world beyond the ice vanished. Can you imagine that sound? The cracking of timber, the final sigh of a ship disappearing forever. A ship named Endurance, gone. And now the men are alone, completely, terrifyingly alone. Let's pause here together. Take a breath and feel the warmth of your blanket or the comfort of your chair. Because Shackleton and his men had no such comfort, only tents, sledges, and the frozen earth beneath them. Yet somehow, Shackleton remained calm. He told his men one simple truth: we will survive, no matter what. And so begins one of history's most haunting survival stories, not of conquest, but of endurance, of the human will against impossible odds. Tonight, as you drift into rest, think about this. Sometimes life traps us, not in ice, but in stress, worry, or loneliness. And like Shackleton, We cannot always break free, but we can endure. We can steady our minds. We can keep moving forward, even in the darkest nights. Soft ocean waves return, calmer now. This is only the beginning of Shackleton's voyage. Ahead lies even greater danger. Open boats on stormy seas, icy marches across lifeless islands, and choices that test the soul. But for now, close your eyes, feel the quiet around you, and let the mystery of endurance settle deep inside.
Picture this. You wake in the middle of the night. Your tent rattles with the wind. The air is colder than breath. Outside, the endless ice moans like something alive. This was Shackleton's camp after the Endurance sank. No ship, no escape, only 28 men clinging to life on drifting floes of ice. Can you imagine that feeling? Not for a night, not for a week, but for endless months. The men set up what they call ocean camp, a scatter of tents on the sea ice far from any land. They salvage what they can from the dying ship: food, fuel, clothing, 3 small lifeboats. Every scrap matters, every nail, every rope, every plank, because soon these fragments will mean the difference between survival and death. They ration food carefully: biscuits, pemmican, thick, greasy blocks of meat and fat, seal meat when they can hunt it, penguin meat too. It is not delicious, but it keeps the body warm. The dogs pull sledges, but even the dogs are thin, ribs sharp under their fur. They pet them anyway. They are friends as much as workers. Still, the ice does not rest. It shifts, it cracks, sometimes with a deep roar that shakes the earth beneath their feet, sometimes with sudden splits that could swallow a man whole. Have you ever heard ice breaking in winter? A sharp crack across a frozen lake. Imagine that sound, but magnified into thunder. That is what surrounded Shackleton's men every night. They sleep lightly, never sure if the ground beneath them will hold. Shackleton knows they cannot stay. The ice is not home. It is prison. And like any prison, it shifts and closes in. So he tells the men, when the time comes, we march. The plan is brutal. They will drag the lifeboats across the ice, pulling them like sledges until they reach open water. It sounds possible in theory, but in truth, it is nearly impossible. The march begins. 28 men, 3 heavy boats, sledges loaded with supplies, the ice uneven, ridged, broken like shattered glass. The men sweat in the freezing air, their clothes stiff with frost, their breath clouds in the wind. Step by step they drag the boats, for hours, for days. But progress is agonizingly slow. Sometimes only a mile in a whole day, sometimes less. The ice laughs at their effort, shifting constantly, undoing every gain. Shackleton makes a choice. He calls off the march. Instead, they set another camp. This one they name Patience Camp, because patience is all they have left. Can you picture sitting there? Endless flat ice, the horizon never changing. No sound but the wind and the groan of the floes, and the knowledge that land is still hundreds of miles away. What would you feel? Would hope fade? Would you sink into despair? Or would you cling stubbornly to the promise of survival? The men talk at night. They tell stories. They sing. They argue. They dream of warm food and warm beds. One man imagines a hot bath. Another dreams of steak with gravy. Another just wants to lie on a mattress again. Shackleton listens. And when their laughter fades, he speaks calmly. He reminds them, we are alive. As long as we live, there is hope. It is not poetry, but it is enough. Still, the struggle grows harsher. The food dwindles. Hunger gnaws. The dogs grow weaker. Some have to be killed for food. A choice that breaks hearts, but saves lives. Imagine looking into the eyes of a companion animal, a creature that trusted you, and then knowing you must take its life to save your own. That is the kind of decision Shackleton's men faced. Chilling, haunting, real. Months pass. The ice drifts slowly north, carrying the men with them. They cannot control it. They can only wait. At last, in April 1916, the floe beneath them begins to break apart. Cracks widen. Tents sag. The ocean rises dark and hungry between blocks of ice. This is it. No more waiting. No more patience. It is time to launch the boats. They push the lifeboats into the freezing sea. 3 tiny vessels against the endless southern ocean. The James Caird, the Dudley Docker, the Stancomb Wills. The men pile in, soaked instantly by icy spray. They row with frozen hands. They bail water constantly to stay afloat. Their world is now waves, wind, and survival. Can you imagine rowing in that cold? Every splash burns the skin. Every gust steals heat from the body. Every wave threatens to capsize them. And yet they row, hour after hour, day after day, driven only by Shackleton's command. Hold on, we will live. Their destination is a place called Elephant Island, a spit of rock and ice, brutal and barren, but at least solid ground, at least shelter from the shifting floes, at least a chance. After a week of storms, after days of near collapse, the men stagger ashore. They collapse on the beach, kissing the stony ground. Some weep, some laugh, some simply lie silent, too exhausted to move. For the first time in nearly 500 days, they stand on land. It feels like salvation, but it is only the beginning. Because Elephant Island is not a home. It is a trap, a frozen wilderness, far from any shipping route. No ship will ever stumble upon them. No rescue will ever come by chance. If they want to live, they must go out again, into the sea, into the storm, into the unknown. And Shackleton knows it. He looks at his men, thin and weary, and he makes a decision, one of the most daring in history. He will take one boat, the James Caird, and sail nearly 800 miles across the most dangerous sea on Earth, to South Georgia, to bring back help. 800 miles. In an open boat, through storms, waves, and freezing gales. No compass but a small one, no charts but memory, no second chance if they fail. Can you imagine? Would you go? Would you risk everything on a single voyage across a deadly ocean? Or would you stay behind, clinging to the little safety left? Shackleton does not hesitate. He chooses to go, because for him, the greatest risk is not death. It is leaving his men without hope. Tonight, as you close your eyes, think about that kind of leadership. The kind that does not command with fear, but with calm, with quiet strength, with the simple promise, I will not leave you. In your life, storms will come. Traps will hold you fast. But sometimes the way forward is not to fight blindly. It is to wait, to endure, and when the moment comes, to move with all the courage you have left. This is where Section 2 ends. But the voyage of the James Caird, the voyage of survival against the impossible, is just beginning.
Close your eyes. Picture a small wooden boat, barely 20 feet long, its sides patched with scraps of canvas, its seams sealed with oil paint and lamp smoke. This fragile craft is about to face the wildest ocean on Earth. The boat's name is the James Caird, and Shackleton has chosen it as his only chance. The plan is desperate. Sail 800 miles across the Southern Ocean, reach the island of South Georgia, find the whaling stations there, and bring back rescue for the men left behind on Elephant Island. The stakes are clear. If the James Caird fails, every man will die. Six men climb aboard. Shackleton himself, Captain Frank Worsley, Master of Navigation, Tom Crean, the unbreakable Irishman, Tim McCarthy, a strong seaman, John Vincent, and Harry McNish, seasoned but weary. 6 men against the sea. They push off from Elephant Island. The surf crashes, icy water flooding the boat instantly. Their friends watch from the beach, tiny figures in the distance. Some wave, some remain silent. All know the truth. They may never see each other again. Can you feel that moment? The dread of separation, the silent prayer that the sea shows mercy, the haunting fear that this is goodbye forever? The Southern Ocean is no friend. Waves rise higher than houses. Wind screams like a living thing. The boat tosses like a toy in the hands of giants. Every man bails water constantly. Every man shivers with soaked clothes and frozen hands. Sleep is impossible. Food is scarce. Their beards ice over. Their fingers stiffen until they can barely grip the oars. Have you ever fought against a storm? Felt the rain sting your face, the wind tear at your body, the sense that nature itself is trying to crush you? Now imagine that, not for minutes, not for hours, but for days on end. That is what Shackleton's men endured. Worsley, the navigator, has the hardest task of all. He must keep them on course with almost nothing. A tiny compass, a sextant, a glimpse of the sun only when clouds part. One mistake, and they will miss South Georgia completely. If that happens, they are lost forever. Worsley steadies his hand. He waits for a break in the sky. He lifts the sextant, calculates quickly. Then he calls the course, his voice nearly drowned in the gale. Each time he succeeds, hope flickers back to life. Days blur together. Salt sores burn their skin. Stomachs ache with hunger. One wave nearly capsizes them, smashing over the boat like a hammer. Another fills the James Caird with ice, which the men must hack away with frozen hands. And yet, they endure. They sing. They curse the sea. They cling to one another with desperate loyalty.
Shackleton watches them closely. When spirits fade, he speaks quietly. "When this is over, we'll eat like kings," he promises. "When this is over, we'll laugh at the sea." It is not true yet, but the words keep the fire alive. After 2 weeks of torment, the men spot dark shapes on the horizon. South Georgia, the island of salvation. They cheer weakly, they cry. Some collapse too weary even to raise their heads. But the danger is not over. The sea guards its prize jealously. Gale winds drive them back. Huge waves hurl the boat dangerously close to rocks. Finally, with the last of their strength, they beach the James Caird on the southern coast of South Georgia. They stagger ashore, they fall on the stones, they kiss the ground. They have survived the impossible. But the nightmare is not done. South Georgia is not rescue. The whaling stations lie on the far side of the island. Between them and safety stretch jagged mountains, glaciers uncharted, peaks no man has ever crossed. The James Caird is too battered to sail around. The men are too weak to wait for a miracle. So Shackleton makes another choice. He will march across the island. 36 hours, non-stop. Through mountains and ice no man has crossed before. It sounds insane, but to Shackleton, it is the only way. Shackleton, Crean, and Worsley set out. The others remain behind, too weak to move. The 3 men climb glaciers with torn boots. They slide down icy slopes on ropes made from scraps. They march through fog so thick they can see only feet ahead. Once, they hear rushing water beneath their steps. A hidden crevasse yawns below them, a grave waiting to swallow them whole. They rope together, hearts pounding, and cross with trembling care. Have you ever felt that edge? The razor-thin line between survival and disaster? Every step one breath from falling forever? That was their journey. For 36 hours straight, they march. No sleep, no rest, only willpower. When exhaustion threatens to break them, Shackleton feels something strange. He writes later that it seemed a 4th figure walked beside them, unseen, unnamed, but always there. Was it faith? Was it the mind inventing comfort in the dark? Or was it something real, a hidden presence guiding them forward? What do you think? Have you ever felt someone unseen walking with you? At last, they hear a sound that stops them cold. A whistle. Thin, but unmistakable. A steam whistle from the whaling station. The first human sound in more than a year. They stumble down the final slope, dirty, frozen, faces gaunt, hair wild, clothes in tatters. The whalers stare and shock. No one believes at first who they are. But when Shackleton speaks, they understand. He has returned from the impossible. For Shackleton, rescue is not rest. Not yet, because 22 men still wait on Elephant Island, watching the sea each day, hoping for a sail on the horizon. He will not leave them. He will not abandon them. Now begins the hardest part: to return through storm and ice and bring every man alive. Tonight, as you let your body rest, remember this: even in the darkest storms, a small light of hope can survive. Even in the coldest nights, the human spirit can endure. Sometimes we face our own oceans: stress, loss, exhaustion. The waves rise, the wind screams, but if Shackleton and his men could endure the Southern Ocean, you too can endure your storms. Take a slow breath now. Feel the calm around you. Let the haunting mystery of Shackleton's voyage become a soothing reminder that even in impossible places, we are never truly lost.
The men on Elephant Island wait, day after day, week after week. Their shelter is nothing more than 2 upturned boats covered with scraps of canvas. Snow drifts in, wind howls through the cracks. Inside, men huddle together for warmth. They eat seal meat. They chew on penguin fat. Their clothes stiffen with salt and smoke. Some grow ill, some grow silent, but all of them cling to one fragile hope: that Shackleton will return. Frank Wild leads them now, second in command. Steady, calm. Each morning he steps outside, looks across the gray horizon, and calls out the same words. "Pack up your things, boys. The boss will be back today." He knows the men need this ritual. He knows Shackleton may be weeks, months, even longer. But he also knows that without hope, they will wither and die. So he keeps the spark alive. Meanwhile, Shackleton is already planning the rescue. South Georgia is behind him, but between him and his men lies the same merciless ocean that nearly killed him before. He begs, he bargains, he pleads for a ship. At first, no one believes the story. No one can grasp that men are still alive, clinging to a frozen rock in the Weddell Sea. But Shackleton does not stop. He cannot stop. The first rescue attempt begins. A small ship sets out, its bow cutting into waves of steel. Shackleton paces the deck, eyes locked on the horizon. But the ice closes in, vast floes pressing together like jaws. The ship cannot break through. The men on Elephant Island remain stranded. Shackleton tries again. Another ship, more supplies, more hope. But once more, the ice denies him. The Southern Sea will not open. Can you imagine his torment? Knowing his men are waiting, knowing every day their strength fades, knowing their lives rest entirely in his hands, and yet nature refuses him? Back on Elephant Island, the weeks stretch into months. Men count the days with scratches on wood. They mend their boots with scraps of cloth. They tell stories to keep the silence away. Some dream of home. Some dream of food. Some dream of nothing at all, their minds too tired to hope. And still each morning, Frank Wild calls them to prepare. "The boss will come today," he says. And though many no longer believe, they rise and they wait. At last Shackleton secures a third attempt, another vessel, smaller, swifter. Again the sea turns him back. 3 failures, 3 heartbreaks, and still Shackleton refuses despair. Do you feel the weight of that? To try and fail, to try and fail again, and still to rise each morning and say, I will not stop, not until every man is safe? This is why history remembers him, not for conquest, not for riches, but for loyalty, for the refusal to abandon a single soul. Now comes the final chance. A Chilean vessel, the Yelcho, strong, fast, built for the sea. The crew trusts Shackleton, and Shackleton trusts the sea will finally allow passage. He climbs aboard. The anchor lifts. The ship turns south once more. One last gamble, one last hope. On Elephant Island, the men stir at dawn. Another gray morning, another ritual of waiting. And then, a cry goes up. A sail on the horizon, a ship, small but certain, coming closer. They rush from their shelters, they shout, they wave torn pieces of cloth, their hearts pound, scarcely daring to believe. And then, through the spray, they see him. Shackleton, standing at the rail, alive, unbroken, come back for them. Every man is rescued. Not one lost, not one left behind. They climb aboard, tears running down bearded faces, hands clasping Shackleton's arms, words failing. The impossible has been done. From the Endurance crushed in ice, to months on drifting floes, to survival on a barren island, to the voyage of the James Caird, to 3 failed rescues, and now this final triumph. Not a single man has died, not a single promise has been broken. Tonight, as you breathe slowly, let that truth sink into you. The sea can be merciless. Life can crush us, freeze us, grind us down. But loyalty, hope, and the will to try again can carry us through the storm. Shackleton's greatest achievement was not discovery, not glory, not riches, but this. He brought every man home.
The Yelcho turns north. Elephant Island fades into mist, and with it, months of fear, hunger, and waiting dissolve into memory. The men are safe now, at last. Imagine that moment. Your body weak with exhaustion, your mind dulled by endless cold. Then suddenly, warmth, food, shelter, the knowledge that you will see home again. Can you picture how sweet that must feel? to lay down fear, to breathe freely, to know you survived. On deck, the rescued crew lean against the rails. They stare at the horizon, not speaking much. The relief is too great, too heavy for words. Some smile faintly, some weep quietly, some only close their eyes and let the rocking of the ship carry them into sleep. The ordeal is finished. The nightmare is over. But for Shackleton, the journey is not so simple. He stands apart, watching his men rest. Every face is alive, every life preserved, yet inside him lingers a silence. He has not conquered the pole. He has not planted a flag. The Endurance lies broken at the bottom of the sea. The world may call the expedition a failure. But was it? Look closer. Every man saved, every promise kept. The true measure of leadership is not glory, but the lives of those who follow you. And Shackleton knows, in that measure, he has triumphed completely. Nights aboard the Yelcho are gentle. The men sleep deeply, curled in bunks, their breaths steady. For months, sleep had been fragile, broken by wind, by hunger, by the groan of shifting ice. Now they sink into rest like children, safe at last. Do you ever feel that longing, that need for true rest after days, weeks, maybe months of strain? That's what they felt now. And perhaps it's what you're reaching for tonight. Let the story carry you there. Let your body feel as heavy and calm as theirs did in that moment. When they reach South America, word of the rescue spreads like fire. Crowds gather at the docks. Newspapers race to print headlines. The men, once forgotten, are now hailed as heroes. But the truth is quieter. They are tired, thin, worn, haunted by memory. Some will carry the cold with them all their lives. Some will wake at night, hearing the groan of ice in their dreams. But all will also carry something else, the unbreakable bond of survival. And Shackleton, he finds no rest in celebration. Even as his men embrace life again, he prepares for another voyage,
War has broken across Europe. Duty calls him back. Adventure will not release him. Yet within him, a simple truth endures. He did not fail, not where it mattered most. He gave his men back their lives, and in return, they gave him loyalty that will echo through history. Tonight, as you lie here, think about what that means. You don't need a polar sea to face storms. You don't need frozen winds to know hardship. Life brings its own cold, its own crushing ice, its own long winters of waiting. But Shackleton's story whispers this: hold on, stay loyal, keep hope alive, and when the storm breaks, you will rise again. On that final night aboard the Yelcho, with the sea calm and the stars bright above, the men gather in silence. Some hum old songs, some whisper prayers, some only breathe, grateful to be alive. And Shackleton, the boss, walks among them, quiet, gentle, eyes soft with pride. He does not boast, he does not lecture. He only shares their silence like a father watching his sons sleep. Because deep in his heart, he knows this: the true victory is not his alone. It belongs to all of them, to the strength they found together, to the hope they never fully lost.
The endurance is gone. The expedition is over, but the story lives on. Not as a tale of conquest, not as a banner of glory, but as proof of human resilience, proof that no matter how chilling the storm, no man is truly lost when hope endures. So, tonight, if you feel worn or restless or heavy with the weight of your day, let Shackleton's story remind you. Storms pass, ice breaks, dawn returns. And sometimes the greatest triumph is simply this: to bring everyone home. Years pass, the world moves on, but Shackleton's name does not fade. When people speak of him, they do not speak of conquest. They speak of character, of courage, of loyalty. Not the man who reached the pole, but the man who refused to leave his men behind. Imagine history's great explorers, Some planted flags, some claimed new lands, some carved their names in maps. Shackleton did none of these. Yet he carved his name deeper, in the hearts of men, in the fabric of endurance itself, because the world remembers not the ice he crossed, but the way he carried others through it. After the rescue, the men return home. Some fade into quiet lives. Some carry scars you cannot see. Yet in every one of them, Shackleton's presence lingers. When they speak of him, they call him the boss, not in command, but in love, because he was more than a leader. He was their keeper, their shield, their light in the frozen dark. And Shackleton himself, he cannot leave the call of the South. Years later, he sails once more to Antarctica, but this time, his body fails him. On the ship, far from home, he dies suddenly, his heart giving out. The crew bury him in South Georgia, the place where his long struggle first began. There, beneath the cold earth, his story comes to rest, but not his spirit. That lives on. Ask yourself this: what makes a life meaningful? Is it fame? Is it success? Is it reaching the pole, or building monuments, or winning medals? Or is it the lives you touch, the people you save, the hope you pass on when everything else is lost? Shackleton's life whispers the answer. Legacy is not measured in miles conquered. It is measured in hearts kept alive. Close your eyes now. Picture the frozen wastes, white, endless, silent, and there a small group of men, cold, hungry, desperate, yet never abandoned, never left behind. Because one man said, "I will bring you home," and he did. Maybe tonight you carry your own weight, your own ice pressing in, your own storms, your own long winter. But remember, like Shackleton, you can endure, you can keep hope alive, you can guide others through the dark. Even when the world calls you broken, you may still be whole. Even when you feel you've failed, you may still have saved everything that matters. When people speak of Shackleton today, they speak in reverence. Schools teach his voyage, books echo his leadership, films try to capture his spirit, but the truest memory is quieter. It lives in stories told by firelight. It lives in the hush of a bedtime tale. It lives right here in your ears tonight as you drift toward sleep. Because Shackleton's story is not just about Antarctica. It is about all of us. How we face storms, how we protect one another, how we endure, and how, in the end, we come home. So let this be your lesson, your comfort, your gentle guide into rest. The storms in your life will pass. The ice will break, the night will give way to dawn. And perhaps when others remember you, they will not recall your trophies or triumphs, but the way you stood beside them when the cold was at its worst. Shackleton's journey ends here, but your rest begins now. Breathe deeply. Feel the weight leave your shoulders. Let the silence of the Antarctic night wrap around you like a blanket. You are safe. You are warm. You are home. Sleep well and dream of courage.